and welcome to the first of a regular series of television programmes produced just for you. Each month we'll be reporting on P&O ships and shore bases around the world, showing you life on board and on land. We'll be bringing to the small screen some of the characters that make up P&O cruises, and I'll be inviting you to join in. Each month we'll have a mixture of items which we hope you'll find interesting, amusing and informative. So, in this month's programme, we cruise with the Island Princess from Los Angeles to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, sampling the grease in the engine room and the oil in the sauna. There's the first in our cocktail challenges. That's worth £100 to the winning ship's crew club. We have full details of the company's recent major management changes and what it all means. And we discover what happens to soldiers who put to sea.
Hit me here, hit me there, 21 or bust.
Terrorism in Europe has had a dramatic effect on the number of Americans booking cruise holidays in the Mediterranean. Press coverage of the Achille Lauro hijacking is being blamed for the virtual boycott by the Americans. But the Pacific Princess has turned potential disaster into success by sailing to Alaskan waters, where American holidaymakers feel safer. Princess Tours, which operate coach tours of Alaska and the Rockies, reacted quickly to the news and had brochures printed and distributed within 1 week of the decision being made. The Oriana was withdrawn from service in Sydney on March the 27th. She set off on her last cruise on March the 14th, 25 years after she was launched at Vickers Yard in Barrow-in-Furness. During that time, she has sailed 3,430,502 nautical miles, a fact not lost on Australian Brewers Fosters, who marked the occasion in suitable fashion. P&O Group's preliminary report shows a profit of £125 million, a significant improvement on last year. But P&O Cruises' contribution to that figure was just over £4 million, slightly down on last year. And Group Chairman Sir Geoffrey Sterling says that that figure is unacceptable. The topic of P&O Cruises' poor performance has already attracted critical press comment and will be the subject of continuing pressure to improve results. Swan Hellenic Cruises has appointed Britannia Airways to carry cruise passengers to the Mediterranean. It's the third year running the airline has won the contract. And finally, the Uganda, which has seen service as a school's cruise ship and went to the Falklands as a hospital ship, looks certain to be sold for scrap. Despite efforts to keep her in service, it now looks as if she's sailed her last cruise and will be broken up. With P&O cruise ships around the world, all very busy and sailing on tight schedules, it's very difficult to find out how your friends and colleagues are faring on other ships. And if you're office-bound, trying to get the feel of a holiday cruise and life afloat is even harder. Well, that is where we come in. Each month we'll be visiting ships and shore bases, meeting the people and discovering how they fit into the P&O jigsaw. And we start with the Princess.
The Island Princess, registered in Britain, 550 feet long, 80 feet in the beam, and 20,000 gross tons. There's more than 22,000 square feet of passenger deck space, which is just as well, because she carries 644 passengers and more than 300 crew. In a week, they'll consume more than 7 tons of alcoholic drinks, eat more than 400 gallons of ice cream, and cover themselves with more than 50 gallons of suntan lotion. But perhaps the Island Princess is best known as the Love Boat in the popular American TV serial. The bridge is the navigation nerve centre of the ship. She cruises at 19 knots and uses some of the most sophisticated navigation equipment to keep track of her position. Here she's 19 miles off the Californian coast, heading south towards Mexico, Puerto Vallarta and the sun. That's 3 days and nights of continuous sailing, and for that, reliable engines are essential.
Well, we've got 4 main engines built by Fiat. They're medium-speed diesels, 2 engines to each shaft, through a fixed reduction gearbox, down on the propeller shaft and through a variable pitch propeller. When we're manoeuvring, the engines themselves do not change direction. It's the actual pitch on the propeller which helps to manoeuvre the ship.
The engines are usually controlled directly from the bridge, but they can be operated from here, the ship's control room. From here, engineers also monitor the Island Princess's electrical system, which supplies everything from the kitchen's ovens, the disco's lights and the anchor winch. Alarm circuits keep constant watch over the whole complex to ensure trouble-free operation. But if things do fail, help is at hand.
Well, we have quite a modern equipped workshop, two lathes, drilling machine. We overhaul all the main engine parts on board, cylinder heads, fuel injectors, pistons. We can change bearings, of course. We can make our own pipe work if necessary, and we can weld and braze, we can arc weld. In fact, we're quite well sustained, actually. We overhaul what they call the head. That's the actual block of metal which sits on top of the cylinder head on the entablature of the main engine. That contains the valves, the exhaust valves, the air inlet valves, and also the injector where the fuel is injected into the main engine. They have to be overhauled at certain periods. These every 6,000 hours, approximately once a year.
It's an engineer's lot that the passengers only really notice them when things go wrong. But the passengers notice and come into daily contact with the purser and his staff. Peter Jennison has been with P&O for nearly 32 years. Before Island Princess, he spent 4 years on the Sea Princess.
We have the catering and the accommodation sides, of course, are the two main functions of the department, and we have about 70 British staff, and they are in the bedrooms and the bars, and the remainder, of course, are the Italian staff who look after the restaurant and the kitchen operations.
All the cakes, bread, we make on board. We make 2 times a day, bread and the cake. Oh, that's no problem. We don't buy anything frozen for that. No. Altogether, includes 66 people so working on the team. So there is no reason to buy frozen, no? And when they can make on board.
Run the restaurants beautifully, and the passengers always remark about the food. People come out of the restaurant and they say their food was marvelous and we really enjoyed it. They gave us so much, and mind you, they're back for the midnight buffet.
I think that the market now, of course, is open to a much wider section of the public than it ever was. Certainly when I first came to sea, it was the privileged few who used to cruise. Now, of course, the market has a much broader base.
You get bottles of liquor from us here, but the tonics and mixed...
The staff in the purser's office cope with all manner of questions and queries. It's here that passengers come first with their problems.
I don't know the Southern California countryside very
We need
well.
very polite and personable people, as well as being efficient. You know, we need to have a happy crew before we can ever hope to have a happy passenger, and we have to get on well with each other. So we need that sort of person.
It's a very happy vessel to work on, actually, because we have a very good crowd of crew, excellent relationships with the officers and everybody else, plus more fortunately, we have a good cross-section of American passenger, and this we have a good rapport with all these people. And as you know, Princess Cruises are very well advertised. You know, the Love Boat series has helped tremendously. in terms of business and everything else. And people come on here expecting that sort of an image, and in a sense, we try and provide that essential thing they see on the TV, which is very good. So it's a very happy ship to work on, I must admit.
Well, we're all here to help you. Whatever we can do, from myself, the captain, down to the busboy, we will do. But you must let us know. We'd much rather hear from you whilst you're on the ship than get nasty letters later on when we can do nothing about it. All right?
The captain's responsibilities spread much further than the bridge.
I'm moving around, socialising.
Not only is he in charge of the whole vessel and its crew, but he also has a social role to play.
There is a considerable one, as you well know. I mean, the cocktail party, 2 cocktail parties last night, and some more coming up. Another one tonight I've got. There is a lot of social work and being pleasant to passengers.
That's very important, of course, isn't it?
They expect it, and I trust they get it. If it stems from the top, then it goes right down to the bottom, I hope.
We've got to keep our standards up as high as possible at all times, because it's imperative. Otherwise, you know, the opposition's there right on the doorstep for us. So consequently, we have to be aware of this. But we don't have to be told this. We're completely aware of this all the time. We see it all around us. Every time we go on board, there's another couple of cruise ships in there. And then you see new ones, and then you know, you have to be aware of these things. I think everybody is.
It's a job to understand Americans. They're completely different to English. The English passenger you get to know, they more treat you as a servant, whereas an American passenger prefers to treat you as a friend. They want to, they always say, "Hi, Al," and "How's things going?" You know, whereas an English passenger would say, "Hello, steward." You know, it's a different way of life out in America, but they're very nice people indeed.
So, from what you say, you prefer American passengers?
I wouldn't say that, no, because I'm very pro-English.
The overwhelming majority of passengers are American and Canadian, some taking a cruise holiday for the first time. So, are they surprised to discover that there are just 5 double beds on the entire ship, with everyone else having single berths?
Sometimes, yes. It depends on the age group that you're carrying, and like I said, with only 5 cabins, it's a bit difficult. On some ships now, you can join the beds together, which will make a double bed, but unfortunately not on this ship.
And the alternative is to put the mattress on the floor?
At the passenger's request.
And we'll be returning to the Island Princess a little later. Now, you probably know that there have been major changes in the management of P&O cruises. But what's it all for? What's in the wind? And how is it going to affect you? Well, that's what we're about to find out. The man responsible for the changes is Chairman Christopher Stewart Smith. Why, we wanted to know, has he made the changes?
2 reasons. We need money to spend on improving our ships and on promoting ourselves. Reinvestment is the lifeblood of this business. That's number 1. Number 2, our actual passenger service has been slipping. There are competitors out there who are getting smarter than us, and we really have to get back into being top of this market, and that means putting the accent on passenger service first.
Let's look more closely at those changes. The emphasis has been placed on improved passenger service and marketing. To achieve these 2 aims, separate units have been set up within the company, each responsible for its own profit. And, as you might expect, the units recognise the quality of each style of cruise. Canberra Cruises is run by Brian McDonald. Princess Cruises continues under Art Rodney, based in Los Angeles. Swan Hellenic Cruises and Art Treasure Tours is headed up by John Bolton, while Flag Travel, P&O Air Holidays, P&O travel offices in the UK and Hong Kong all report to Ross Sinclair. And last but not least, P&O Lines, the ship management division, is run by Peter Motion.
It's a fairly classical idea of simply splitting the business down into its component parts, into individually accountable units, with a manager in charge of each who takes personal responsibility and has the duty to manage and the scope and ability to manage. That's the classical principle of it. That's really what we're doing. And in the course of that, what we'll be doing is putting the accent on marketing
and on passenger service. Those are the two things that really matter. Now, on the question of passenger service, I think it's clear that the passengers have to come first. In the case of marketing, P&O has always been famous as an operating company. We also need to get that message over to people, perhaps better than we've been able to in the past.
What you're describing is a substantial wind of change which is blowing through the management. Is that wind going to be felt elsewhere in the organisation?
Yes, it will. I hope it'll be felt from top to bottom. I've emphasised we start from the top, and the wind of change so far has hit the top of the company, I suppose. But that should then be passed down from man to man, all the way down through the organisation until all of us who are working to the same end, which is to serve passengers on board the ships. I just emphasise that the shore offices are only there to support the ships, and the ships is where the action happens. That's where we want to take as many decisions as we can.
Some people might be rather alarmed at the suggestion that things are going to change. Is there anything you can do to either confirm their alarm or to allay their suspicions?
I think that any change is always a very anxious period for all those involved, and I think that it's up to us to make that process of change as constructive and as least painful as possible, and that we shall certainly do. But on the other hand, the changes have got to come, and I don't want to duck the issue in any way at all. We've got to confront it head on.
But P&O Cruises has been making a profit. You've not been operating at a loss, so why this urgency to change?
Yes, we have been making a profit, but it's a very small profit. I mean, it may sound like a reasonable profit. It was just under 5 million last year. That may sound like a lot of money, but if you think that we invested £150 million alone in the Royal Princess last year, and think what, if you put that money into the Building Society, it would earn for you, one can see immediately that 5 million is not anywhere near what's required to get the confidence of people to put money into the business for the future. So it's absolutely critical that we get that return up.
Well, joining me in the studio now are two of the most senior men in the company, Managing Director Alan Langley and Assistant Managing Director Hugh Scrimgeour. Alan Langley, first of all, what impact are these management changes going to have further down the organisation?
There'll be an immediate relationship by all people who are associated with the various businesses with the results of those businesses, their contribution to the success and the performance of those businesses, a greater level of motivation, I think, for people concerned, and that in itself will lead to the greater awareness of the nature of the business and the possibilities that there are to improve it.
Now, Hugh Scrimgeour, a new management sometimes means tighter control at the top. I mean, managers come in and they want to get hold of it. Is that going to happen in this case? More control?
No, what we want to do is to push down more sense of responsibility down the line, so decisions will be taken at the sharp end where they can have the best effect.
So what are you saying, a lot more scope for initiative lower down the scale?
I certainly hope so, yes.
Which will be quite exciting, hopefully.
It should be.
How soon are we going to see these changes?
We've already announced the introduction of the changes in the shore-based businesses, and those were announced a few days ago. People are aware of their position and their place in the businesses. And as far as our sea staff are concerned, we've put forward certain proposals which are geared to improving our performance and related to our competitiveness. And those are being considered and discussed with the personnel concerned, both on board and on leave from the Princess ships. And we hope that we'll be able to find a fair solution to what is a difficult problem.
So it's clearly not all boardroom talk. The ball is definitely rolling.
Oh no, it's happened and it's in place and the momentum is there.
Now, what about the passengers? Because they pay for it all in the end. What are these changes going to mean to them?
Well, the main objective of the change is to give the passengers a better value for money for their holiday. And if we can do that, then we'll get more passengers, and then we'll make more money and be better paid jobs for all the staff throughout the organisation, and we can build on that success.
Good, thank you very much for joining us. But what happens if this restructuring doesn't work? That's the vital question I put to the chairman, Christopher Stewart-Smith.
Well, I think that could be tough, because there's a lot of good competition out there, and we could find ourselves out of business. But, having said that, I don't see that that's at all a necessary thing to happen. I think that we've got the right way to go here. These are very constructive changes, and put in place, they'll make us extremely competitive, and they'll put P&O and all our brands, Princess Cruises, Swan Hellenic, Canberra, right back in the forefront of the market.
Mr. Stuart Smith was talking there in the company's new London offices. In fact, when we filmed that interview, he was the only person in the offices. Next month, we have a conducted tour of the new premises located in the centre of London's West End. Now, here's a challenge, and it's worth £100. It's very simple. All you have to do is create a cocktail. I stress the word create. We don't want you to copy one. What we want is something totally original. Now, the best entry wins £100 for the Crew Club Fund. Anyone can enter. You don't have to be a bartender. Just a dedicated drinker would help. Our first entry is from the Island Princess, currently cruising off California and Mexico.
Well, here we are from the Island Princess with our little entry into the contest. We decided to call our entry the Mexican Monk. The contents of the Mexican Monk is creme de cacao, frangelico, whipped cream, grenadine and Coco Lopez. Well, all poured out on crossed ice. First we put in the whipping cream, followed with the grenadine, only a dash, and after that a dash of Coco Lopez. Then the Monk, the frangelico, and then the creme de cacao. We then shake it gently and pour it into a stamped glass. Very tasty. Everybody's taste. There you are. That'll put a smile on the face.
Absolutely delicious. I'll drink to that. And that one, we are told, is the winner. Unless, of course, you know different. Now, each month we'll be keeping in touch with the P&O Cruises fleet, and we start with the Canberra. She arrived in Southampton on April the 8th, having returned from a world cruise, and she's now on her way to the Caribbean. The Royal Princess is already in the Caribbean and makes her inaugural voyage to Sydney and the Far East, leaving Los Angeles on St. Valentine's Day next year. The Sea Princess, she's in the Mediterranean for the summer, while the Pacific Princess is operating along the Mexican Riviera and is due for a one-week refit mid-May. The Sun Princess continues her popular Caribbean itinerary. And finally, the Island Princess is to cross the Pacific for a 6-month spell in Australia, starting in October. But she is currently sailing short cruises between Los Angeles and Mexico. We rejoin her as the passengers begin to relax. And that means from musicians to laundry staff, there's work to be done.
Make me look thin, boys. Make me look thin.
ballet has been one of those things that's gone on with P&O and Princess Cruises for a number of years. And we need, I need 5 or 6 engineering officers to get that together. Now I can give them one of my girls to rehearse it, but Paddy, Paddy Clare, ventilation officer, he's done it for years and years and years. And he would like to retire, but we keep bringing him out of retirement to do it again, because he's the best one we ever had.
If I were not upon the ship, something else I'd rather be. If I were not upon the ship, a blackjack dealer me. Happy all day long, and this would be my song. Hit me here, hit me there, 21 or bust. Hit me here, hit me there, 21 or bust. Hit me here, hit me there, 21 or bust. Hit me here, hit me there, 21 or bust.
And that's all for this month. Next month we are ashore, visiting the prestigious American offices overlooking Avenue of the Stars in Los Angeles, where we meet some of the reservation staff. We take a preview of the new London offices in the heart of the West End, and we greet Canberra as she returns to Southampton after a world cruise. We hope you've enjoyed this first programme, and do let us know what you think. And if you want to send a copy of this programme to friends or family, then you can obtain copies from your deputy captain if you're ship-based, or from Peter Cutmore, personnel manager based in Southampton if you're land-based. So, until next month, do take care and good cruising.